Yes, it is a beautiful morning. Actually gonna turn it this way and see the sun. There. Is that going? Hold on. All right. I was just making sure it was rolling. There we go. It is a beautiful sun this morning. We are going to start a full read on Comfort My People this morning. The author wishes to thank the editors of The Critic for permission to reprint 2 chapters which first appeared in their pages. This was published by Sheehan Ward, 1968. Library of Congress, catalog card number 68-26037. Introduction. Yes, this was written in, did I not say the year? 1968? I think I said the year. See, comfort my people, says your God. Isaiah 41. This is written by Eugene C. Kennedy, M.M. Introduction. Just moving my seat a little bit. Yeah, getting in a good position for the sun to hit the corner of my eyes while I read. The world is trying to tell us something. It does this in a confused mixture of styles, sometimes through the echoless silence of its alienation, and at other times in the furious multicolored whirlwind of its wars and entertainments. Behind all of this, man is a hunter, stalking himself, seeking his own meaning in a trembling universe. The world is saying that it seeks something of lasting value, something that will help it to find itself and give it truths by which it can live genuinely. Men are saying, whether they recognize it or not, that they need the words of eternal life spoken by a church that genuinely understands them and their longing for life to the full. We're starting a full read on Comfort My People. I can touch base on it really quickly. It's getting so old and sickening to us. I heard that, what's his name? Tim Pool. He's pretty popular. People still talking about the Pizzagate stuff. I'm not sure why a lot of that just hasn't been addressed and nipped in the bud by bigger names. It doesn't seem to be talked about at all, as though they're not going to entertain conspiracy theories. Yeah, just to explain really quickly the associations to those trafficking lines, which are highly associated to, obviously, people in mainstream news, Hollywood. People are getting killed and kidnapped. It's not a joke. Right, so yeah, the Pizzagate, all the words and the terminology, the pizza, hot diggity dog, and hot dogs and all that, their terminology was old code words for old investigations, and also sometimes people who traffic things use that to describe different kinds of drugs. Exactly, like ecstasy if you're getting the unicorns or the elephants. It's kind of a different, coming from different laboratories, right? Chemical makeup is a little different. Pretty much, the elephants and unicorns were both good though, right? Yeah, this was back in the 90s when those 10-strip ecstasy stuff were coming up through those lines. Yeah, the ketamine and all that stuff, they were calling it Special K. It was really scary, the people that would be on that stuff, directly connected to these punks and people that came up out of the catalytic converter chop shop. Yeah, the ones who tried to kill me and are fucking my children. Yeah, it's not a joke.
We hope so. We really hope so. Yeah, they're also vaccine injured and all that bullshit and the activist stuff we've been dealing with, and to see how it's connected with that stuff. Right. So some of the other terminology, hot dogs and pizza, just different classifications. Could be different kinds of drugs. It could be a terminology, digging up dirt. Yeah, say cheese. Right, and it could mean something completely different depending on whose mouth it's coming out of and who they're talking to. Right. It might not even be for the person being spoken to or have anything to do with, right, but the one watching and listening. Yeah, I know. And the person you're talking to might be like, what the heck are you talking about? Huh, never mind. Someone on the airwaves got what I meant. Right. So hopefully people wake up to that and do what they can to help these children, because the citizens here are definitely blind to a lot of it, and they have been for a long time. And the private investigator in 2009 who shot himself was trying to tell him. Yeah, what's his name? Around 2015, 16, 17, like David Seaman and those people that were covering those things. You have Alex Jones and other people. As you can see, it gets taken to extremes. It almost the mockery kind of. They make money off of it, and the real issues don't get attention. And then you try to call out those people, and they're just making fun of Karens and get them. They're trying to freedom of speech, and it turns into so much stupid fucking bullshit. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we got the attention of a lot of those activist groups 2015 and 2016. Yeah. You know, you can only hope that people do the right thing, because in our world, we're trained. You always put human safety at the forefront, and that way, there, when it gets up into these higher class and really abusive situations, people don't get confused. If you always keep that in mind, human safety is at the forefront. I think it's kind of a code that a lot of people live by in our healthcare systems and stuff like that. We appreciate that. And when you see so many completely abusing that just because they feel as though somebody wronged them 30 years ago when they were 12, some idiot on the street, no one did anything about it, so they have a right to fuck other people over. Yeah, they're sick fucking cunts. So hopefully the proper authorities that carry on, they have a right to do what they're doing, and they make a lot of money, and people give them a lot of money. You poor, damaged, broken people. So hopefully the proper authorities can do what they can to help these children who are helpless with no voice. You loud fucking pieces of shit with your blowhorns. Click, click. I know, right? I mean, can we be nicer about it, or I don't know. Good question. Gregory, we're going to continue reading. We're on the first page here. Introduction. That was the first paragraph. All right. Gregory Baum, B-A-U-M, has pointed out that in the documents of Vatican II, the term church has several meanings. It can refer to the church as the Roman Catholic Church, composed of those who explicitly acknowledge the hierarchical ministry and celebrate the 7 sacramental actions of Christ. It can also refer to the local congregation to Christ in the presence of those who stand around the altar together. Beyond these, church also designates the community of all the baptized, and also the church universal, as it pertains to all mankind, summoned and transformed by divine grace. Church also designates the mystery of relationship in the spirit of those who are friends and who are becoming friends, in contrast to men in conflict with themselves and separated by alienation from others. Yeah, I agree. So when you have people that try to segregate or stand up for this group and stand against this or that, any activism, that kind of stuff, it's sickening to us. Yeah, I guess you don't get it. Get what? I don't know. You tell me. What's your name, Puddin'Kane? Where do you live? Down the lane? Ask me again and I'll tell you the same. It does. It seems like alienation when you have these people. Oh, it's the communists and liberals, Republicans. Makes no fucking sense to us at all. Yeah, no, we don't vote. I could care less about your stupid fucking voting system. It's all bullshit. Shove it up your ass. Pine Noel, J-U-D-ba-bi-da-da, Jani-o, Ja-fu-pu, Fu-toi-la-la-tu. It is in the latter sense, especially, that I speak of the church in this book, that this is the open church, which presents itself as the people of God and the caravans of whose pilgrimage there is room for all. It is the church of those called to be friends and to share the life of the Spirit with each other. This is the church whose pastoral presence is so desperately looked for by men today. It is the community of believers who gather, not to hide in the hills in anticipation of some prophet's doomsday, but to give life to each other through the love that arises from the action of the Holy Spirit. This is indeed the church which can understand man and his agonies, which can bind up his wounds and offer him redemption through its invitation to life in and through the community of Christ. This is the church that comes into being whenever men truly open themselves in faith and hope to one another. I have written this book to reflect on the basic Christian attitude of defenseless service to others. An individual does not find faith out of the blue. In the human process, a man will not believe unless someone shows him. Acts 8:31. Unless someone shows is in quotations, those 3 words. Unless someone shows. Faith comes through hearing, through personal interaction, through incarnation, death, and resurrection in relationship to other persons. This incarnational vocation of the church, bids all churchmen and churchwomen to share in making the pastoral presence of the saving mystery come truly to life in the family of man. In the document on the church in the modern world, the Council Fathers ask, "What does the church think of man?" People are waiting for an answer. From the answers, it will be increasingly clear that the people of God and the human race in whose midst it lives render service to each other. Thus, the mission of the church will show its religious, and by that very fact, its supremely human character. The church cannot be religious unless it is fully human. There has been a long and trying tendency on the part of some spiritual commentators to be suspicious of this basic truth. This has led to an indictment of human relationships as not being supernatural, as though the mystery of salvation were to be accomplished between disembodied spirits rather than actual people. But the setting of redemption is the world, not the desert retreats that reject it. Men live the life of the Spirit in community with one another, not in breathless strivings to escape one another. The great message that the deeply human church has for all men lies in offering them a community that calls them out of their suffocating and self-defeating isolation from each other. The church's mission is to bring men into true community with each other under the action of the Spirit. This cannot and will not occur unless the church is fully committed to its incarnate vocation. It is when the church forgets. So, what's that? Do I expect you to hug your rapist or someone who's murdered your children or protecting sick fucks? No, not at all. In fact, it's an absolute normal reaction to not want to be in the presence of such drunkardness, neglect, hatred, evil people. That's a totally normal feeling. So, because it's saying, right, to bring men into the community with each other under the action of the Spirit. Right. So if you want to feel that way, right? And you exactly, and that's a normal feeling to have. Right, and to accept that sometimes some of those crimes, you can't always arrest people. Like Trump's son said, we can't arrest them all, but we can at least shame them, call them out. Right, so to do that in a orderly conduct way, you don't want to be disorderly about it, right? Now, when they have a problem with it and they try to attack you for it, or get some of their goons or retards or over-medicated psychos to attack you for it, or dig up dirt, hot diggity dog, or try to get you arrested, say cheese, yeah, then we have a problem, right? That's evil. Yeah. So to come together in the sense of, right, maybe they should back off because they're getting upset you're speaking the truth. You know what? I have dealt with similar situations myself. Yeah, both indirectly and directly, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Man, I feel you. Right, so yeah, what do you do in those situations? Right, so when we have people that are trying to get state people or even police officers to try to get you to stop speaking the truth or even arrest you for it, do they feel threatened? Yeah, that's sick, isn't it? Yeah, we've been dealing with that, oddly enough, in some of these communities where there's been a lot of cartel activity and some of the higher abuses that go unspeakable, the unspeakable abuses, as some call it. Right. Yeah, I guess that's where we're at, man. To be at peace. Yeah, you can just kind of, like ships in the night, you can pass peacefully. Right? It might say things, it might not say things, it might give you a look. Let's not get physical. And to some, yeah, let's get physical. For what may be, for whatever reason. You want a hug? You want a hug? All right. We don't even got to shake hands. You can get physical with yourself. Yeah, I do too. I love that stuff. It is great stuff to learn about. You know, we've had conflicts with people over the years too who want to try to say that you have to have another person to please yourself, and you're like, yeah, no, you actually don't. Right, I'm not saying to not, I'm just saying, right. Because when I think about me, I touch myself. I don't want anybody else. When I think about you, I touch myself. Mm-hmm. Right, there has to be some kind of interaction with something else, so right? Right, in this moment right now, I'm sitting here in the kitchen by myself. What am I talking to? I'm reading a book. I'm laughing. Sometimes I cry when I read or talk about things. Can bring up anger. Can make me feel clammy. Make my heart rate go up and down. My breath, temperature regulation, all these things. It's so incredible, really. We're amazing creatures. Right, there's just been an argument over the years with some of those things. And to be able to kind of bring forth those understandings, people get upset as though you're trying to teach to be with somebody or alone, or that it has to be this way or that way. Well, I like to get my pleasure with another man or another woman. I like playing with myself. And if it were to be with another person, in that regard, okay. I mean, there's a certain level, whatever you're comfortable with, right? And either way, and does that make you a good or bad person? It's strange, isn't it? So again, people oftentimes they just bypass the initial understanding and teaching of self-awareness. So thank you. I appreciate that. Something like that. And how it turns into all these debates. And somebody prefers to do it this way or that way. Right, I mean, do you want to argue about what speed the vibrator should be started out on, or to use one at all, or not to use? You know, I like my vibration board. It shakes my whole body. It's so awesome. Yeah, I love it. It has magnets on it. And depending on how I stand and position my body, it goes up different energy lines. That's really fun. Right. In the document on the church in the modern world, the Council Fathers ask, "What does the church think of man?" People are waiting for an answer. From the answers, it will be increasingly clear that the people of God and the human race, in whose midst it lives, render service to each other. Thus, the mission of the church will show its religious, and by that very fact, its supremely human character. The church cannot be religious unless it is fully human. There has been a long trying tendency on the part of some spiritual commentators to be suspicious of this basic truth. This has led to an indictment of human relationships as not being supernatural, as though the mystery of salvation were to be accomplished between disembodied spirits rather than persons. But the setting of redemption is the world, not the desert retreats that reject it. Men live in the life of the Spirit in community with one another, not in breathless strivings to escape one another. The great message that the deeply human church has for all men lies in offering them a community that calls them out of their suffocating and self-defeating isolation from each other. The church's mission is to bring men into true community with each other and under the action of the Spirit. This cannot and will not occur unless the church is fully committed to its incarnate vocation. It is when the church forgets or misunderstands its humanity that it fails to understand its relevance to the world. To understand its relevance to the world. Yes, I was just reading that too. All the different conversations in class, they're talking about how you can apply that across the board. Who you can enjoy having a meal with. Some people you just can't eat with them. Oh my gosh, they smack their food. They eat so fast and mindlessly. I can't stand it. I do that sometimes. I know. Right, having a conversation, you know what? I don't mind, going to a seminar and listening to someone else talk. To have a conversation, mono a mono. No, I can't stand it. No, I just can't stand their voice. They talk too fast. The subject matter usually is just, there's no substance. Right, exactly. Someone you like going on a bike ride with might not be the same person you enjoy going to the movies with. The person you enjoy going to the movies with might not be able to ride a bike. Right, so it's nothing personal, it's just... What cape are you wearing today? Darling, it's my turn to be tall today.
The basic attitude of the church can only be manifested in the open human attitudes of its members. Here is where the Spirit breathes on men and brings them to life. The most important instrumentality of the church is its human personality. This does not exist aside from the human personalities of its members. The essays in this book will, I hope, help the church's servants to understand and accept their own humanity, to forgive themselves for it, and to assist them in giving the full gift of it to others. The more truly human they are, the more fully can they be the agents of the Spirit in the works of redemption. I am afraid that too many of the church's servants have been trained not to trust or value their own humanity. This has led to a great deal of non-redemptive suffocating in their lives and has prevented them from being as free and loving as God's servants have a right to be.
What's this? You just did a class on the mindful eating? That's such a fun class. It's very tantalizing at times, I agree.
It continues to amaze me to notice the sense of was it the free one? That's great, huh?
Have you? I'm right. I've done the free and the paid for class. The free one was better.
I know. You never know, I guess.
You gotta use judgment, I guess. Roll the dice. Don't live in regret either. If you paid for a class and then, like, you know what? I can do that. I already knew that. The free class, you got way more out of the free class. Yeah, the paid for class is usually a lot of restrictions. Remember the public broadcasting networks? I know. You used to have to pay a lot of money to just even do what we're doing right now. It's freaking awesome.
How cool is that? It continues to amaze me to notice the sense of relief that many of the church's servants experience when they realize they are not called to be angels and that it is all right for them to be human beings. Once they can admit themselves into the human race and accept their necessary imperfection, they find the freedom of God's children and can give themselves in genuine service to others. That is really what life is all about. It is what the life of the Spirit is all about as well. What else do we have to give to others except ourselves a little more unselfishly each day? Buildings and blueprints will mock us eternally if we do not understand the church as a mystery that fundamentally transcends them. The persons who are God's people are the only prize in the apostolate. What else is there in life for a servant of the church than his people? How else can the church be made present if we fail in the real meaning of the poverty of the apostles? To give our imperfect persons unreservedly and unconditionally for the sake of others. Salvation is a human enterprise. It is for men. It comes through men who are ready to love other men, not for their praise or even for credits in the ledgers of heaven. We are called to love other men, not because we conjure up Christ in them, but because they are men and they need us. That is why Christ loved them and gave himself up for them. This is a perilous task, this invitation to become relevant through our relationships with other men. This is a perilous task, the invitation to become relevant through our relationships with other men. You can put human beings, man, human being. That would be a great sentence for the board. You want to change it to with other humans so we don't encounter idiotic frickin' people. Okay, this is a perilous task. This invitation to become relevant through our relationships with other humans. It is the kind of activity that can hurt and even destroy us. Several months ago, in an incredible accident in Vietnam, a live grenade was lodged in the back of a civilian. Careful preparations were made for this delicate surgery. Walls of sandbags and shatterproof glass were erected. The doctor was protectively dressed and provided with an extended instrument to perform the operation of this man, so cruelly a victim and a threat at the same time. Whenever we minister with some sense of Christian love to men wounded by life or sin, we can also too easily approach them with the same caution. But men are suffering and dying, and they're crying for help. We can be overwhelmed by the sense of threat that arises if we place ourselves at their side. It is not good enough to reach out to them from behind sandbags and make us secure. It is not good enough to reach out to man from behind sandbags that make us secure, from behind shatterproof glass that saves ourselves. The world has a right to something better than that from us, from men and women whose love exposes them to pain and hurt in saving others. Our persons must be involved if we seriously take on the responsibilities of the pastoral presence of the church. We have lots of sandbags and shatterproof glass, all fashioned in the age of clerical culture that made us focus excessively on our own perfection, sometimes at the price of failing to give ourselves to the service of the church. I do not think the sandbags give us much protection anymore, and as we should have known all along, people can see through glass, even if it is shatterproof. The servants of the people of God find themselves exposed to all the dangers of relevancy. For them, the post-conciliar milieu is one of tension. The post-conciliar milieu, okay. For them, the post-conciliar milieu is one of tension, the invigorating tension that arises because their own persons are so intimately and completely engaged in the work of redeeming their brothers. This book is not aimed at dissolving the healthy tension of life in the spirit. Hopefully it will help some to recognize and accept this tension as a sign that they not only have life, but that they can hand it on, even though they are imperfect to others. I'm going to take a sip of water. The reader will notice that I use the terms priest, pastor, and pastoral figure somewhat interchangeably throughout these essays. This is because the pastoral work of the church, particularly in this time of evolving apostles, is a responsibility which the priest shares with religious brothers and sisters and laymen. The priest may be the central figure in the pastoral presence of the church, but he is not isolated or insulated from others in the role. What I have written can be applied to all Christians who participate in making the church a living presence in the world. I have really written only an introduction. Excuse me. Thank you. Someone interjected. They feel as though a lot of the churches are going completely against all of the... I understand. This has been discussed for decades, I believe, actually, and it is very sad to a lot of us how many churches had been infiltrated by cartels, so to speak, criminal activity, working with state workers. It got really bad. You thought it was bad in the 90s. Wow. Yeah, so by 2006, 7, 8, it was so bad. And some of the people calling those things out were killed, and it scared a lot of people to not even talk about it. On that note, we'll finish this first section of the book here. We're almost to the end of this introduction. Yes, you're welcome. I have really written only an introductory series of reflections on this subject, prompted by my experience with the churchmen and churchwomen, clergy, religious, and laity alike, who have through their who have through their own persons given me an experience of the church. I hope in some way to have captured the glints of the Spirit captured the glints of the Spirit that make them the light of the world. Another great sentence. I hope in some way to have captured the glints of the Spirit that make them the light of the world. If there is truth in any of my words, glints, glints. That is a cool word. If there is truth in any of my words, it is because these genuine Christians have made the words of life flesh through their own persons and have shared themselves freely and generously with me. Eugene C. Kennedy, M.M., Glen Ellen, Illinois, March 13th, 1968, F.S. Notes: the Documents of Vatican II, edited by Walter M. Abbott, M.J., New York, Guild Press, America Press, and Association Press, 1966. Someone made a statement. They're going into a whole spiel on it. I'll mention it quickly. They're talking about the word glints and sense perception. So if we were to say a speck, probably talking of a minuscule amount. A glint. Because you speak a glint of the Spirit. Yeah. So the next section, that was the introduction. And then the dissolution of clericial cultures, the next section, and we're going to pause it there. Yeah, I got to drink some water and go do some stretches and stuff. Yeah, this is probably starting to overheat sitting in the sun too. Oh yeah, that is hot. Woo! 37 minutes, almost 38.